Hello everybody and welcome back to the Village People. In this video we're going to take a look at the Cyclopeans. We're going to take a look at their history, their culture, and what sets them apart from other playable races for D&D 5th edition. So without any further ado, let's take a look at the Cyclopeans. The history of the Cyclopean people is one of struggle and strife and pain. Cyclopeans are a race of humanoid people that sprung from the mingling of humans and Cyclops. Eventually, the Cyclopeans, not being accepted by their full-blooded Cyclops parents, and often too off-putting to live with their human parents, ended up becoming their own community. In these early days, a lot of these individuals struggled and were in pain, struggling to find a place in the world. This led to them being marauders, barbarians, and other very drastically powerful individuals that came with the build that they ended up having. Tall, large in general, with dense muscles, and a single intimidating eye allowed them to become very powerful warriors and raiders. But they were more considerate and more mind-driven to some extent than their Cyclops parents. Leaning into their human side, they ended up looking at the cycle of what was happening and looking into how to change it. This very active role in breaking a cycle has shaped their entire culture to this day. Nowadays, Cyclopeans are born to Cyclopean parents, and they cultivate a far more supportive community than the original Cyclopeans had in their own upbringing. Cyclopeans typically live in nomadic tribes in mountain foothills and grasslands, herding their sheep from grazing pasture to grazing pasture as mindful shepherds, leaving behind their raiding and barbarian kind of days. These communities have historically been peaceful nomads in recent years that roam with their sheep. However, they are capable warriors even still, and will defend themselves and their flock. Though, due to this active changing of community goals, they've ended up leaning more and more into being peaceful, and finding that being peaceful and cooperative has led to quite a difference when it comes to interacting with other cultures. Now they are effectively just nomadic tribes that live in peace and celebrate their own lives. From a more direct cultural perspective, Cyclopean communities are focused around their herds of sheep and the well-being of each member of their tribe. They continuously strive to celebrate their own communities and develop their culture in the forms of arts and music. These communities celebrate a great many festivals, and though they work tirelessly to tend to and protect their flocks, they really have a focus on tending to and caring for each other as members of the community. These individuals are effectively roaming hippie communes that make their way across the world, herding sheep for what they need and doing what they can to support each other and support each other's growth and interests. That means that should someone arise as an adventurer that wants to leave home and have an adventure, the rest of the tribe, while concerned, will be supportive, and for the most part work with them to make sure that they have everything that they need to do what they want. Appearance-wise, you can imagine a Goliath is the mingling of a stone giant and a human. And so kind of Cyclopean is going to be the mingling of a human and a Cyclops. So much larger and much more powerful in build, though typically shorter than a regular Goliath, or around the same height at a maximum. They tend to have powerful builds, tanned skin, and a single large eye as opposed to two eyes, and so they don't necessarily have that binocular vision, but they have their one very powerful eye that they're able to see and tend to things. Ultimately, appearance-wise, these people tend to have simple linen or woolen clothing, and they tend to be covered in beads and jewelry and other things that are handmade. If you were to run into an adventure in a pub that is of a Cyclopean heritage, quite a bit of their history is going to be tied to what their community has done with them. And a lot of what they'll be wearing is tied to what their community gave to them as they left home. Memories, symbols, and active participation in the adventure, as seen through carrying a bracelet or a lock of hair or anything else that the rest of the community may have had with them and gifted them on their way out. This is a very specific and stark reminder that while you are gone, you are not forgotten. And many individuals of Cyclopean culture are very careful to recognize and remember those that are lost, disappear, or ultimately leave. Even if they didn't leave on the best of terms, it is a Cyclopean ingrained trait, as a cultural trait, to remember and honor each Cyclopean that they have met, known, or forgotten. Even if there's anything that they can do, they'll make every effort to not forget. And they will do what they can to leave a monument or anything else that they can follow along a traditional path that allows them to end up leaving sort of a trail of elders, almost a trail that leads to history. And so many people that walk through will not necessarily know, but the tribe will, and that's what matters. So, looking at Cyclopeans, what do we get if we want to play them? What does that even look like? What you get is an ability score increase. Due to the Cyclops blood running through your veins, you benefit from a much sturdier build than most. Your wisdom score increases by 2, and you can either choose to increase your strength or constitution by 1. This is reflective of their mind over matter choices. Cyclops tend to have a certain anger and rage that they end up being fueled by in a lot of their activities. They are bestial, they are powerful, and they are dangerous. And seeing this, the little bit, like I said, more head-driven Cyclopeans chose to distance themselves as far from that as possible. And so the wisdom of worldly experience of travel and also making this cultural choice is going to affect your wisdom score directly. You also have Cyclopean build. Your Cyclops heritage has granted you density of muscles that affords you greater strength for your size. While you are medium size, you count as one size larger when determining your carrying capacity, as well as the weight that you can push, drag, or lift. This is relatively similar to a Goliath trait, but ultimately is reflected in how the Cyclops are giant kin. And so Cyclopeans are somewhat giant kin as well. You also gain a trait called Ancestral Shepherd. The prominence of your shepherding ties has afforded you a number of different proficiencies. Basically, living in the tribe, you will be doing different things. You will gain proficiency in either animal handling or perception. Now, this is indicative of whether you are directly dealing with the animals or if you're the shepherd that sits on the hill and watches for any danger. That kind of thing is ultimately up to you and how you want to play it, but you can lean into either of those proficiencies, and you may also choose one set of artisan's tools to be proficient with. As nomadic tribes, you kind of end up being a sort of jack of all trades. You aren't just a shepherd, you also do things to support yourself and others around you. And so if you are the local boot maker, or if you weave tapestries and everything along those lines, then pick the artisan's tool that makes the most sense for your role in that nomadic community. The final trait that you gain is an ancestral rage trait. Your Cyclops heritage has afforded you an enhanced rage. You may temporarily lose yourself to benefit from the unbridled rage of your Cyclops ancestors. This doesn't come to you until level 3. So at level 3, once per long rest is in action, you may enter a primal rage. This rage lasts until the end of your next turn, and while you are raging, you gain resistance to all damage, and all of your weapons attacks are made at advantage. This is pretty powerful for what it can do. Basically, there is the history tied into Cyclopeans that they were angry at the world, they didn't know what to do, and they were finding their place within it before they made the choice to be different. This lets you make the choice to go back in the heat of the moment for a single minute to go up against unending kind of overpowering odds to make the choice to do what you can to overwhelm something that is already overwhelming you. So this is your ability to do your part for king and country in your adventuring party by doing this thing. Now, part of the problem is all of this, while you have resistance to all damage, whenever you do take this damage, ultimately, while it's halved, you are still taking it. And so the idea is you're in a blind fury and you don't feel the damage that you're taking. Whenever you end up leaving this rage, you gain a point of exhaustion inherently. Now, should you have more damage, you're damaged and you have your point of exhaustion, it can be more severe should your DM rule that you gain multiple points of exhaustion for having your speed halved, because the idea is this takes a lot out of you, because this is tapping into a very primal part of you. It's tapping into your bloodline, not something that like a barbarian's rage as their class supports them in doing. This is a very powerful ripcord, God, I need to do this type of thing. And so should this actually work out, it's not something that you pull out at the first opportunity. This should be something that even if you are a Cyclopean barbarian and you are fueled by anger, this is a very different type of anger. This is, I am a Cyclops. I am a massive giant-kin monster that eats things. I am so furious, and it goes further than just I am angry, enraged, and moving through kind of this battlefield. You still have some ability to be tactical with that. This, you are so furious that this is I'm applied directly to forehead, going straight towards the enemy. That's what this trait is designed to allow you to do. That's it for the Cyclopeans. Thank you all for watching. Let me know which homebrew race you would like to see next. But otherwise, like I said, thank you for watching.